Hello folks, I'm John Myrie and welcome to the Wisconsin Northland Outdoors. On this week's show we have tips and reports for you from Jarrett McCarthy down at Hayward Bait and Bottle, and then we talk first ice fishing with Hayward Area Fishing Guide Tom Leahy, and also ice panfish with Fishing Guide Steve Genson. Lots to cover on this week's show, all coming up right after these messages.
Save on your new Polaris snowmobile with a holiday sales event at Hayward Power Sports. Most remaining 2024 models offer rebates up to $2,000 or financing as low as 1.99% for 36 months, plus a 2-year promotional warranty. From relaxing two-up trail cruising to aggressive trail attacking, we have your machines. Meanwhile, the new 2025 Polaris Indy XCR features the new 9R Patriot engine for unbeatable response and acceleration. Get your new Polaris sled today at Hayward Power Sports, just 10 minutes east of Hayward on Highway 77.
Riding along in my automobile.
Bumping into things unexpectedly? Make your first choice for collision repair. Ernie's Auto Body, featuring the most advanced collision repair facility in Northwest Wisconsin. With a state-of-the-art spray, bake-down, draft paint booth for that better-than-new finish, laser technology for precision frame alignment, loaner cars available, computerized estimates, written guarantees, and documented unmatched customer service, the clear choice is Ernie's Auto Body, south of Hayward on Highway 63 and Nursery Road, where quality is no accident.
Lynn's Custom Meats and Catering welcomes you to stop by for their great lunch menu, and while you're there, Lynn's also has a great selection of custom-cut meats and sausages, as well as many varieties of snack sticks, jerky, fresh cheese curds, and much more. Lynn's is open Mondays through Fridays from 9 to 5:30 and 9 to 4 on Saturdays. Lynn's Custom Meats and Catering in Hayward.
Today, anglers fish longer. Today, anglers fish harder. Today, anglers rely more than ever on their electronics. It all comes down to catching more fish, and today, anglers rely on Amped Outdoors lithium batteries, period. Visit ampedoutdoors.com today to power your outdoor experience.
We're down Hayward Bait and Bottle talking to Jarrett McCarthy down here. And Jarrett, as we're speaking here, we have a little bit of water on the ice, a couple warm days, but still a bunch of ice out there.
Absolutely. I think a little bit of water on the ice as opposed to a foot of snow, but yeah, we got some good conditions for making ice, this last week, and we got a little warm up right now, but we definitely got some cold temperatures ahead of us that'll definitely add some more ice to us.
And I've been getting reports of 8 inches and even more on some waters.
Yeah, some of the big lakes that are out there, like Round, Grindstone, Coudray, those just froze up last week, and those are probably still going to be a little ways away from fishing the main body of water, but yeah, a lot of those smaller inland lakes or what have you around here, they're going to have anywhere from 6 to 8 inches on them.
And you don't really need to get out over the main part of the deep water of the lake either, really.
No, you really don't. This time of year when we're still on early ice, a lot of those fish are still pushed up shallow, especially while we don't really have a whole lot of snow on top of the ice. That sun can still get through the good clear ice that we have around here and keep those weeds alive. So, until we get a substantial amount of ice on the waters around here, or at least a good pile of snow, a lot of those fish are going to stay, 15 foot or less.
I know you've been out a bunch. You still seeing some good green weeds down there?
A couple of spots that I'm going to, yes. Not a lot of weeds, just because, some of the spots that I'm fishing are just more of a mud basin or what have you. But, yeah, it still looks like good weed growth down there.
I think the more the clear the water, the more you're apt to have some green weeds. You kind of find the green weeds over the dead weeds, and that'll be an extra good spot to be on. As far as the panfish out there, what are you hearing there?
Panfish seems like it's picking up, because we've got some more ice out on the bodies of water that we're fishing around here. Guys are able to get out a little bit more. Sounds like the crappie bite's really good out there right now. Got a couple guys out for bluegills, but overall, panfish bite's been really good.
Been live bait on the panfish or more so the plastics yet?
It's been back and forth. It depends on what day. We get some guys that go out there with jigs and plastics or like a jig and a waxy and they do well. Other reports that we've had come in say that crappies don't want to touch anything other than a minnow. So it just depends on the day you're out and what lake you're out on.
I've noticed that too. I do a lot of guiding for crappies and bluegills in the summertime, and mostly it's almost 100% plastics and gulp and that type of thing. But in the wintertime, quite often you have to go to something like waxies or you have to go to minnows.
Yeah, absolutely. Fish don't eat as much in the winter as they do in the summer, so when you're presenting something to them, you want to make sure it is exactly what they're looking for. Otherwise, they're just going to pass it up and keep on going.
You had much as far as walleye fishing reports out there?
Less walleye reports more so than panfish or what have you, but we are seeing some guys still getting some walleyes out there. A lot of guys are just now starting to get onto some of the good walleye lakes that are around the area, but early season walleye reports, we saw a few.
Yeah, and that'd be mostly an evening bite, I would imagine. And I know a lot of the guys will string up tip-ups and then go back to shore and watch the tip-ups there, because they're not very far offshore a lot of times.
Absolutely. We've been getting walleye in 2 feet of water at the start of this winter here, so it doesn't take much to spook those fish out of those shallow bays or what have you. So making sure that you keep your distance from your set lines is key this time of year.
What do you recommend, the shiners or the sucker minnows?
It depends on your body of water. I have mixed both in this year, and it seems like I have more success on the shiners.
And another thing a lot of guys are catching, I know you mentioned you caught quite a few of them, the northern pike.
Oh my goodness, there are so many northern pike out there. Doesn't matter what lake you go to, but some really good, healthy northern populations out there right now. And, it's one of the finest meats that they have out there as far as if you're looking to pickle something, or if you're looking to fry a fish up. Northern's a really, really good white meat. It's poor man's walleye.
And that's one thing I'll kind of encourage people too, is to back away from the walleyes and the panfish and the crappies a little bit and try to go after the northerns. The northerns are good table fare. They're good food. And if you're looking for just amount of fish, we've got some lakes up here now that they've upped the limit to 10 on the northern pike.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're a blast to go after during the day, especially if you got some kids that just want to run for flags. Yesterday we're out on a lake around here, and within about an hour and a half, we had 20 to 30 flags. We're going to a flag every 5 minutes. So if you're looking for some kind of action or something like that, or something to keep kids busy, those are the species to target.
Yeah, and you got a longer bite window. I mean, with the walleyes, it's strictly almost usually early morning, real late in the evening, and even after dark, where the pike, they tend to not bite after dark most of the time.
Which is a good thing, because you don't want to get walleyes and northerns, mixed up on your tackle or what have you. But yeah, during the daytime, just to keep you busy until that night bite starts for walleyes, set out for northern pikes, because you never know when that 40-incher is going to show up.
Yeah, I don't off the top of my head remember which lakes our 10-bag liminal spider chain is, and tiger cat flowage, and I don't know if it's chippewa flowage, I think it is too.
I think it is. It was a rule that was just imposed this year, so definitely make sure you check your local regulations.
And I haven't heard much on deadbait. We were just talking about that, but that'll start coming up after the first year or two a little bit for pike.
Absolutely. As soon as we've had some ice around a little bit longer and we start to see a little bit of die-off in some of the lakes, a lot of those pike will key in on those big deadbaits, and, making sure that you get those baits sitting down there in the mud where those pike are going to come through and pick them off bottom. It's a great tactic for a really big pike.
And the other thing too, I haven't had any reports yet up on Lake Superior, because I imagine they're just getting going up there, or not quite got ice yet. Have you heard anything up there?
Not quite have ice yet. I think we were up looking around the big waters the other day, and haven't seen anyone out yet. It looks like they're kind of skimmed over or something up there, but not enough to get out onto yet.
And that's a fantastic fishery, too, once we get ice. I know you guys down here at the shop, you got everything and anything anybody could need for not only ice fishing, but for late bow season and preparing for the holidays. You got a lot of gift ideas and stuff.
Absolutely. We've got our new line of apparel and goodies in here for merchandise. If you're looking for a gift card for anybody in the family, we got sales on shacks and augers and beaver dams down here, so we're fully set up for ice this year. If you're looking for something to be special ordered, stop on in, ask us about it. We're here to help you.
You bet. And also I want to mention that we do the report here as to what's going on every week, but you also do other reports on Facebook too for ice conditions and fishing.
Absolutely. So every Friday, and we're just starting this up still, so this will be our 5th report that we're going out to this Friday, but we're doing ice reports on all the local lakes. So this last week we did Round, the week before that we did the Chippewa flowage. So if you're hesitant on coming up this weekend or any weekend and you're kind of curious as to what the ice conditions are, make sure you check out our Facebook page every Friday morning. We're going to go do an ice report. If we don't do the lake that you're thinking about, just give us a call here at shop and we'll give you the knowledge we have.
Plenty of information on the fishing up here, and I know I should mention too, we've got the late bow season still open yet, you guys, and if the weather doesn't get super cold, it's not bad sitting out there in the woods looking for that buck if you haven't got one yet, which is what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a little bit of cold coming this week, but it looks like that week of Christmas and New Year's, we're going to have some really nice temperatures up here. I mean, low 30s, high 20s, something like that. Some really nice fishing or hunting weather. Just nice to be outside this time of year.
Well, Jared, I want to thank you greatly for taking the time here with our listeners.
Thanks for having me again, John. If I don't get back or if I don't talk to anybody till then, Merry Christmas to everybody.
Yep. Thank you. Well, folks, we need to take a break right now and hear from some of the fine sponsors that make this show possible every week. When we come back, we'll be talking ice fishing with Hayward Area Fishing Guide Tom Leahy. So stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages. Hunters and anglers, Hayward Bait and Bottle is your one-stop sport and bottle shop in Hayward. They have a huge selection of ice fishing gear, including portable shelters, power augers, electronics, beaver dam tip-ups, ice rods, and just about anything you'll need for ice fishing. They also have archery supplies, bows, crossbows, muzzle loaders, ammo, and much more to help you enjoy the outdoors. While you're there, check out the bottle shop for a full selection of beer, wine, and liquor, too. Hayward Bait and Bottle is your one-stop sport and bottle shop.
The Hayward Lakes Visitors and Convention Bureau in Sawyer County, Wisconsin welcomes you to our Northwoods hometown. No matter the season, no matter the activity, you'll always be surrounded by our great outdoors. What more could you ask for in a vacation destination? Woods, waters, world-class events. Contact us for information on lodging, dining, attractions, events, trail conditions, and more. Order your free vacation guide and start planning your getaway today. Visit us at haywardlakes.com or call 1-800-724-2992.
You wanna get outdoors, you wanna have some fun.
A new Can-Am side-by-side is the perfect companion for all seasons. Hayward Powersports still has an awesome selection of new 2024s, and they currently offer rebates up to $2,000 or 2.99% financing for 36 months. If you like the creature comforts, the very popular Can-Am Defender Limited HD10 offers a $1,500 rebate to go along with its full cab, including heat and AC. Looking for a value price machine? The Can-Am Defender XT HD7 features a winch, roof, front bumper, and full skid plate. With a $1,500 rebate, it's all yours for just $14,899. Maybe you need a little more muscle. Unleash the power of the Can-Am Defender XT HD9 or 10 with $1,500 rebates. With the money you save, you can outfit your new Can-Am with a plow, cab accessories, and so much more. Your new all-season companion is waiting at Hayward Powersports, just 10 minutes east of Hayward on Highway 77.
Certain restrictions apply. Subject to credit approval. See your dealer for details.
Welcome back to another segment of this week's Wisconsin Northland Outdoors, and this part of the show is brought to you by the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau. For more information on lodging and vacationing here in the Hayward Lakes area, check out their website at haywardlakes.com. Well, folks, one of the guides that I get on here from time to time is Hayward Area Fishing Guide Tom Leahy. Had a chance to talk to him the other night on the phone about the ice fishing. Tom, been a while since I've had you on the show here.
Yeah, thanks, John, for having me.
We're starting to get some set up for a decent ice fishing season out there compared to what we had the last couple of years, it looks like.
It looks like it. It was definitely kind of a warmer fall. Everyone knows that. But once winter came, it came.
Mother Nature always seems to be able to even things out real quick. And if it prolonged that warm, it's always going to get real cold real quick. But we got some good ice out there right now. And I know I'm starting to get some pretty good reports of people out there fishing, catching fish too. And, you don't really need to get out in real deep water to catch fish, do you?
No, a lot of times, the early ice, whether it's November or December this year, we're getting this in December. But those conditions, you can target, your game fish, your bass, even walleyes, northerns, all that stuff, doing the tip-up thing. But if you have a lake that's, let's say, a man-made reservoir-type flowage lake, yeah, they like to hang out in the wood. There'll be other bait fish there, bluegills, perch, and that might be anywhere from 5 to 8 feet of water. Or if you find some weed edges that you typically fish in the spring, those are all great opportunities. And if there's muskies in that lake, you might find yourself a early ice muskie. So there's lots of opportunities there.
I know that's one of the things I see all the time is that on some of the flowage or reservoirs like you were mentioning there, first thing everybody does is runs out into the deeper river channels and the deeper water. And, some of the panfish will be out there, but a lot of the predators, whether it's the pike or the walleyes, they'll tend to really hang a lot closer to that wood and stuff, I think.
Yep, and even consider, areas that are adjacent, like flats, setting up on a bar, maybe adjacent to that deep water, not necessarily, the 20s and 30-foot stuff. However, it depends on whatever lake you're fishing. Every lake is different in their own way, whether it's a clear lake, a stained lake, a real dark lake. So things to consider.
Well, I think the smaller lakes and the shallower flowage type scenarios are the best bet for early in the season anyhow, because, we've got the best ice out there.
Exactly. And however, keep in mind, it's fun to go, definitely chasing some of them crappies or let's say perch that are going to be hanging out where you were potentially, where you're catching them in the fall period in those basins and whatnot. There's definitely different realms. You got the early walleye bite, which can be extraordinary at times. And then walleyes typically on our small inland lakes, it gets tougher as the year goes on, but going for the areas that, where there's bass, northerns that'll typically hang out, and or other panfish that'll even be shallow. Those are always just fun spots for taking the kids out, action, doing the tip-up thing, incorporating some jigging.
Well, when you're talking tip-up fishing, that's kind of a standard up here in northern Wisconsin, it seems like. But what are some of the mistakes you see people make a lot of times if they're getting into fishing with tip-ups? I mean, there's some differences in the way you set stuff up and the depth and everything else in there.
Some common mistakes would potentially be, guys maybe not setting precisely. Sometimes when you're fishing shallow, and look, we're just going to put a foot off bottom for a walleye. Well, if there's stumps or weeds that are a foot tall, you don't want to be setting your stuff down in those weeds. So that would be a mistake. Other guys, that early ice, sprinting to their tip up. Let's say you got 4 inches. You want to walk quietly, especially if you can see through that ice. It's very noisy. There's no snow to make that quiet or anything, or driving a machine up to it. So the early ice, definitely a little different. Those are a couple things.
I know setting tip-ups, I mean, it's similar to when we're setting slip bobbers, and people trying to a lot of times guesstimate the depth. And with the we've got the little lead depth finders that you can use, but actually there's actually a better way of setting your depth when you got weeds and wood and stuff, and that's to use your flasher to set your tip up right where you want it, isn't it?
Yep. If you have just a simple Vexlar, that's a great way to do it too. And you can, you put your tip up down after, let's say even just for checking, if you were just, using a bottom checker, doing it that way, set it up, and then just drop that transducer in and actually see where it is. See if there's any weeds, because it'll have that static on the bottom if there's some weeds or debris or something. Technically, you could use a live scope to do the same thing.
Yeah, but, well, you mentioned the live scope. We went from flashers or from nothing to flashers to, liquid crystal screens. That's what I prefer, liquid crystal screen. But now we've got the live sonar, the forward-facing sonar, and that can be almost absolutely deadly out there ice fishing, can it?
Yes, and, just as far as locating schools of fish, sometimes, guys think, I bought this, I'm gonna hammer walleyes now, let's say. Well, sometimes those fish that are cruising the bottom, it might not show as, let's say, a school of suspended crappie or panfish, whatever. It definitely takes some practice, knowing what you're seeing, pacing, pointing it towards where you see that fish, pacing that off, making sure the transducer's right. But it can be a very effective tool.
The one tip, too, that I can give people is that, there's tons and tons of videos out there on using your electronics, no matter what brand you're using, whether you're using Garmin or Lowrance or Humminbird. There's tons of videos out there to help you kind of set things up to make the settings correct and line up your transducers, how you got to have everything set up. So that information is there now for anybody. Back when I started, it wasn't there. We learned the hard way.
Exactly, and all good tools for reference, depending whether it's a Garmin, Humminbird, Lowrance with the forward or forward facing sonar. And a lot of times too, keep in mind, it's not just for looking forward. You set, if you're using your live scope, setting it on down image, let's say, you could have 2 people or 3 technically be using this thing, watching the screen and watching themselves jig. It's pretty cool. A lot of people enjoy that, especially if they've never seen that. It's kind of like a video game.
Yeah, you can have multiple people watching it too, and you can look out a ways too. I mean, I've been with you and we've used my live scope where I've seen schools of fish 50, 60, 70 feet out, and you can go out there and drill on those fish and stay right over the top of them if they don't spook and move. But a lot of times, as soon as that auger goes through the ice, they'll kind of vamoose in a hurry.
Yep, and I know too, we've experienced, both of us, when there's a vehicle driving, let's say on the lake or ATV, snowmobile, whatever it is, you end up, you can sometimes see those fish disperse even from that.
Yeah, the fish are a lot more spooky under the ice or in the water, even if you're in a boat. They're a lot more spooky than people realize, and that's one thing that live sonar or forward-facing sonar actually shows you. And I believe that I've learned a bunch of stuff from using it as far as fish behavior. It shows you what those fish are doing out there. You can watch them and see how they react to boat noise and to traffic and all kinds of things.
And even reaction towards certain baits, lures, live bait. You can see lots of neat things. However, keep in mind it is a tool and should be respected as such. But you still want to have your good fishing sense.
Oh,
not just stare at it.
Yeah. Well, as we get better equipment and better knowledge and all that stuff out there, I've said this repeatedly on the radio show here that, it's becoming more important to the individual anglers. Us as individual anglers, back up and take a look at how many fish do we really need to have to keep, and how are we handling these fish we're releasing to make sure that they're all going to be healthy when we put them back in.
Yes, respecting the resource and for future generations as well.
If anybody's looking for information on guide trips with you, or you do groups and stuff, sometimes I work with you a little bit, but how do they get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me at 715-558-6755 or TomLeahyGuideService.com.
Well, folks, we need to take yet another break and hear from even more of the fine sponsors that make this show possible every week. When we come back, we'll be talking ice panfish with Hayward Area Fishing Guide Steve Genson. So stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages. Hey folks, come on over to Hayward Ace Hardware and check out the area's largest selection of firearms, ammo, and accessories. We carry top brands like Browning and Sig Sauer, and we have a great selection of the newest and hard-to-find models. We've got a large selection of ammo with more coming in daily. If you need a scope, we carry great brands like Leupold, Hawk, and EOTech, and we'll even mount it and bore-sight it for you too. We even sell suppressors and silencers. And don't forget to check out our Guns of the Week. Huge discounts on a variety of pistols, rifles, and shotguns that change every week. So stop on in to Hayward Ace Hardware, your firearms superstore. Hayward Ace Hardware, Highway 63 North in Hayward, or give us a call at 715-634-8700.
Hayward Animal Hospital is a full-service medical and surgical hospital featuring on-site laboratory, digital and dental x-ray, in-house pharmacy, and online store. Dr. Ostrander has 40 years of experience dealing with illnesses, injuries, surgery, and dentistry. Hayward Animal Hospital offers urgent care appointments and emergency surgery daily. Please call early in the day for these appointments. They open at 8 a.m. Hayward Animal Hospital is located 1 mile east of Hayward on Highway B. Call 715-634-8971.
Hey folks, the Log Cabin Store in Northwoods Beach on Highway K between the Big Lakes has groceries, ice, beer, liquor, and pop, and now has all new tackle and bait supplies. All current antiques and household items are now on sale and all must go to make room for the sport shop. That's at the Log Cabin Store in Northwoods Beach between the Big Lakes.
If you'd like to have your time fishing be more enjoyable and productive, hiring a fishing guide can be a good investment. Whether it's learning more about fish patterns throughout the year, learning how to use your depth finder to find the best spots and fish, learn how to use that GPS to get the most out of it, or learn better boat control. A day on the water with a guide can really help you to be a better angler, as well as make a day on the lake very enjoyable. To book a guide trip this year or get more information, you can find us on the internet at www.wiscnorthlandoutdoors.com, and then just click on Area Guides.
Welcome back to the last segment of this week's Wisconsin Northland Outdoors. And on this part of the show, we're talking with Hayward Area Fishing Guide Steve Genson about ice panfish.
Steve, you know, when it comes to ice fishing, wintertime bluegill fishing can be really a blast, and you can catch a lot of fish. Not necessarily big fish, but a lot of fish.
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably the thing that we target the most, as well as the crappies. Makes for good action throughout the course of the day. They're excellent eating, and they're a lot of fun. A lot of fun to watch on the electronics, and really an enjoyable fish to go after.
What kind of tips can you give people to be more productive as far as catching fish out there when it comes to bluegill?
Boy, bluegill, they had the misconception of being the easiest fish to catch, and actually a lot of days they can be quite difficult, especially when we get into the midwinter portion of the season. So a lot of times I will downsize to very small jigs. I use very light line, sometimes even down to 1 pound test, but usually 2 pound test. Finesse, use spring bobbers to detect the bites rather than a floating bobber. Spring bobbers are much more effective at detecting very light bites, especially with the bluegill, because a lot of times they have a tendency to hold on to a bait as opposed to biting it and moving down. So spring bobbers are probably the most important thing for being able to detect those real light bites.
How about, I know everybody uses a flasher or a depth finder, but how about a camera? Does that help?
You know, cameras are fun to use, but they're just not real practical. They're hard to move around. I'll use them if I don't think I'm going to be moving a lot, or if I know I'm in an area that has a lot of fish that really aren't moving a lot. I'll set up the camera, and there's days where you'll certainly will catch more fish using a camera than you will with a Vexilar or a Markham. But typically, if I know I'm going to be doing a lot of hole hopping, doing a lot of moving, I'll just rely on my Vexilar or my flasher, because it's just a much more efficient way to move around. The camera's nice and fun, but it's just a little bit cumbersome if you're going to be doing a lot of hole hopping.
Just a light line and the spring bobber is your best tip.
You know, that's really the thing. You know, a lot of guys will go out with 6 or 8 pound test and a floating bobber, and they're not catching much, and I can go right around them with 2 pound test and spring bobbers and pull out a limit very, very efficiently. So really just learning a little bit of the finesse, portion of it. Downsizing baits, downsizing line will certainly catch more fish.
You know, we talked about fishing that jumbo perch or finding the bigger perch out there in the lakes. You know, you mentioned fishing the mud flats. I mean, these fish scatter. They're kind of like the walleyes do late in the year, too. They scatter all over.
Yeah, they roam a lot, and that's the problem with perch is these guys like to drill a couple holes and just sit in one spot and expect the fish to come through, and the reality is they're never where I leave them, from one day to the next. They may be close by, but usually you got to drill a bunch of holes to find them again, and that's the hard part of it is really just covering the water until you find the fish. Once you find them, they're usually pretty schooled up, and you can find a lot of fish in smaller areas. But the problem is they keep on moving.
A little hard, though, when you got colder temperatures to do that, because it kind of precludes you out there in a shack. You can't set the shack up till you find the fish, so you're kind of moving and roaming like they are.
Yeah, you bet. And the deep snow is even more of a hindrance for me because it makes it hard to walk around, move around, just makes everything a little bit more difficult. Typically, that perch bite gets a little bit better as we get further into the winter. But honestly, if guys are willing to work a little bit, they're a lot of fun to catch, and you can get a lot of nice eating out of them.
What do you typically use for the bait for the perch?
That's the thing. They're easy to catch. I typically just run jigging spoons with a minnow head on them. I'll use that as my search tool, and usually that's all I need to use. But if I get on a perch that aren't biting as well, or if I'm catching a lot of small fish and not triggering the bigger ones, I'll sometimes upsize to an even bigger spoon, and then sometimes I'll downsize to just a small kind of a rocker type jig with a waxworm if the fish seem a little bit tentative.
I know you mentioned a little bit of work. I know one thing, it's definitely, as a guide, myself and you, it's some more work for a guide out there in the winter than it is in summer.
Yeah, it really is, John, and it's something that I don't take lightly because obviously I want all my people to do well and catch fish, so that a lot of days will translate into a lot more work. But the more holes you drill, the more you move around, the more active you are in ice fishing, generally the better success you have.
Quick, give out your guide information.
If anybody wants to get out, 715-558-3709 is my cell, or you can get me on the web at fishhunts.com.
Well, folks, we're about out of time for this week's show. I'd like to remind everyone out there that if you miss a show, go to our website at wnoradio.com. From there, you can link to our podcast site, and the show is also on Spotify and Google Podcasts every week. And also, if you're looking for information on vacationing and lodging here in the Hayward Lakes area, check out the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau website at haywardlakes.com. Thanks for listening, folks. We're out of time, and we'll be back again next week with another interesting show for you.
Listen with me, I'm gonna take you there to our Wisconsin Outdoors, our Wisconsin Outdoors.
This program has been produced and hosted entirely by Wisconsin Northland Outdoor Communications.